Hello good people, this is FisherTwelve back with another exciting video for you guys today. As always, it is Monday night, Raw just ended, let's talk about it. So this episode of Raw was coming from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the home to Kurt Angle and Corey Graves, and this crowd was hot. They were loud. I don't want to say it was quite a Raw after WrestleMania crowd, but this was an unusually hyped, active, cheerful crowd, and that is always a good thing. And the show started off with a Kurt Angle promo carrying that hype that this crowd was bringing, and ultimately it was really just to further the Brock Lesnar storyline. Him and Heyman come out, and Heyman says if Brock Lesnar does not retain at SummerSlam, he and Brock will leave the WWE. Now, I think I read, well, first off, that's a lot to take in, right? Doesn't that all of a sudden just change how you think this match at SummerSlam was going to go? Because I am pretty sure everyone was talking about how Brock Lesnar would lose or not retain at SummerSlam. Who would be the next Universal Champion? But after making a claim like that, it's kind of hard to believe that Brock Lesnar would lose. Because I think I saw that he was advertised for the No Mercy pay-per-view, or at least some of the events leading up to the No Mercy pay-per-view. So it would be interesting to see him lose the title and leave the WWE, but still be advertised for those events. Now, I think I saw that on Twitter. I haven't had a chance to confirm that. But after being called out by John Jones on Saturday night, this could be a segue into Lesnar leaving and starting to train for UFC. There is some time left on that. I still think he has to serve a 5-month sentence for his suspension, and then you figure after that he starts training. So we're not looking for another fight for at least 8 months at the minimum in my eyes. So it would seem weird that he would leave WWE so soon. So all of a sudden, I'm starting to think that Brock Lesnar is going to retain at SummerSlam. Then we had our first match, which was the Club versus the Hardees, with the Revival on commentary, and the Revival were making their case for being the #1 contender, saying that they've beaten everyone. And this match, it was a pretty decent match. I don't think there wasn't anything spectacular or anything that happened, but it was just, it wasn't bad, I guess. So by WWE standards, I guess that makes it decent in my eyes. I'm not really sure, but it was obvious that the whole point of this was just to further the rivalry that the three of these groups have, and it led to a big aftermath fight at the end of the match, and it was awesome. It's like, it makes sense with the with the Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins storyline and the Bar and them working the tag team titles, but this feud would be so much better if one of these groups, probably the Hardys, were the tag team champions, and then you had both of those groups going after them, both those groups being the Club and the Revival. That would just amplify this feud. You know, you talk about times where the title sort of heightens the feud, like, for example, Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg. That was made so much more better by Brock Lesnar having the Universal title, whereas in my mind, I think I would have liked to see Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho for the Universal title. So, and actually, you know what? Correction there. It wasn't Brock Lesnar who had the Universal title. It was Goldberg. But my point being is that the championship can elevate a storyline and a feud and make it that much better. And this is one, although this feud is great and will be great on its own, it could be even better if there was a championship at play here. Then we had our weekly 205 Live segment with Cedric Alexander, Rich Swann, and Tozawa, with Titus O'Neil at ringside, versus Tony Nese, Arya Daivari, and TJP. And like I've been saying before, guys, we need more tag team matches coming from the Cruiserweight division. Just more opportunity to showcase everyone's ability in this division. Because if you don't have the WWE Network and you don't watch 205 Live, if you get a one-on-one match with these guys, you don't really care about them because you're not getting the full picture, you're not getting the full story. But when you have these tag team matches where there's no storyline and it's just about wrestling, then I can get invested in what the guys are doing in the ring and then decide to tune into 205 Live to keep following their story, their segment, their character arc. You know, there was a spot during the match, it was Rich Swann and Cedric Alexander. Cedric Alexander, I think, did a swanton over the top rope, and Rich Swann did a Phoenix Splash, or Corey Graves called it a tumbleweed, from the middle rope to the outside. And it's just like, those are the type of moves people want to see, and tag team matches are really great for having opportunities to have those types of moves. And just going back to my last point, seeing Rich Swann and Cedric Alexander do those moves, it's like, wow, these guys are really impressive. I want to see more of them. Maybe I will tune into 205 Live. Maybe I will start my free trial on the WWE Network. But you got to get them invested, and having these storylines of Noam Dar and Cedric Alexander with Alicia Fox and text messages and video chats and being done, like that's not the stuff people want to see, and that's not going to get people invested. Having pure, awesome wrestling matches is what's going to get people invested in the 205 Live division. Next up, we had Miz TV featuring Jason Jordan, and Jason Jordan came out to new music. You know, I'm just going to start calling him JJ from on now, just a lot easier than Jason Jordan, and in all my notes, I wrote JJ instead of Jason Jordan. During this entire segment, I kept thinking how great of a heel The Miz is, because he just has the right amount of believableness or validity to what he's saying, or I'm not sure if I'm explaining it right or picking the right word, but when he's talking about how this business will eat you alive, it helps to have friends and whatnot, like, even though he's being a heel in saying that and trying to coerce him, he is right to some degree, and I think people honestly believe that, and I think that is what makes him good as a heel, like I was saying, just because he's not super over the top. He's not like Bray Wyatt, where he's like, I'm a god, I see all things, and I'm going to destroy you. It's like, I am picking this demeanor, I am choosing this perspective on life or in the WWE because this is what I firmly believe is the right thing to do. And this is really what makes a good heel. I think Brian Alvarez said this on Wrestling Observer Live, Wrestling Observer Radio, that a good heel is someone, or maybe it was Dave Meltzer, I'm not sure, someone over there. A good heel is someone who is doing what they're doing because they think it's the right thing, and people dislike them because they don't agree with it, or something along those lines. And I firmly believe that those are the great types of heels, the types of heels that are believable, are somewhat relatable. But something I thought was interesting, and I'm probably looking into this more than I should, is that JJ is coming off as a very likable, very honest person. You want to be on his side. You know, the things he says, they make you go, you know what? I can get behind him. He's not a bad guy. He's saying the right stuff. He's got the right attitude. This is a guy I could get behind. And I think that is very similar to Kurt Angle when he was a heel when he first came into the WWE, because his whole thing was that he was better than you. He was an Olympic gold medalist. You're just the average person. He's a superior athlete. And I think JJ would make a great heel if he adopted sort of a similar persona where he just tries to be so likable and so honest and so relatable that it almost comes off as annoying and pretentious, and that could make him a really good heel. Next, we had Sheamus versus Seth Rollins, and I sort of already touched upon this a little bit earlier, but this was sort of to build the feud that Seth Rollins and Ambrose are having against The Bar for presumably the tag team championships. Seth Rollins has a new Burn It Down scream in his music, which I thought was a nice touch, but the match itself was just okay. Nothing spectacular or special really happening here. You could tell that this match was just to further the feud, and I sort of felt that way about the Club and the Hardees match. It's just that I felt like I was only watching this match to see how this was going to further the storyline. I didn't really feel like there was anything happening in the match or anything worthwhile seeing. It wasn't a good showcasing of spectacular athleticism or anything like that. It was just sort of like, can we hurry this up so we can get to the actual action that matters that's going to further this into next week, into SummerSlam and whatnot? And to be kind of honest, when Cesaro and Sheamus started attacking Rollins, it felt a little out of place. It just felt like that wasn't their MO. That wasn't their thing to do. Their thing isn't really to blindside and attack like that and get the jump. I understand that they're heels, but they're more like cocky heels. We're better than you. We're superior than you. We're better wrestlers. We're the champions. It wasn't like we're bad guys and we do bad things. So, like I said, just felt a little out of place. One thing that was a nice touch is that everyone wanted Ambrose to come out. The Bar were beating up Rollins, and they were walking away. And as they were walking away, they decided, you're like, you know what? He hasn't had a bad enough beating yet. Let's give him another one. And when they go back into the ring to give him a second beating, that's when Ambrose shows up. And I just thought that timing right there, I thought that was a really great touch. And something else too, while we're mentioning Dean Ambrose, there was an interview earlier with Renee, and you could just tell that Renee was extra excited to be interviewing Dean, and she was almost acting like her and Seth were in a relationship, which I bet she thought was funny and a little humorous. She was like, so, are you and Seth gonna get back together? Oh my god, is it safe to say you guys are gonna be a match? Or like things like that I just thought were just kind of cutesy. But it'll be interesting to see where this feud goes, because even though Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose are feuding with the Bar, Dean Ambrose is also feuding with Seth Rollins a little bit, in just the sense that he doesn't quite trust him and he always has to keep a third eye out for him, or an eye in the back of his head. Then we had a Bray Wyatt promo, and this was your typical nonsensical Bray Wyatt promo, saying the same thing, yet saying nothing for however many years now. But one thing that was cool was Finn Balor playing the mind games, having his music hit, and then a little bit of darkness, and then boom, he's in the ring. That got a big pop. I thought that was kind of cool. I will say, though, I do see this as a nothing feud. This feud doesn't help Finn, and it doesn't help Bray, and it can only hurt each other, because if you want to build Bray back up as a potential monster heel, he needs wins. But at the same time, if you want Finn Balor to stay over, he also needs wins. And arguably, he has done nothing of worthwhile since coming back from injury. He hasn't competed in any championships. He hasn't been in any real feud. He was in a feud with Elias Samson, but even that sort of didn't really have a conclusion. Like, the conclusion to their feud was Bray Wyatt interrupting and attacking during their match and getting Elias the victory. So, did Elias win? I'm not really sure. I really just want to see them actually do something with Finn. When will that be? Hopefully immediately after SummerSlam, but it probably won't be any time before then, so we're going to have to hold out till then. Then we had what should have been our main event, and it was a little surprising that it wasn't. We had a triple threat match between Samoa Joe, Braun Strowman, and Roman Reigns, and I thought this was a pretty good match. There was some good outside action, there was some good back and forth, some good spots. Nothing too spectacular by any means, but a pretty good match that definitely should have been the main event for Raw. I was half expecting Brock Lesnar to come out during this and attack all of them, but that didn't happen. And one thing too that was sort of in the back of my mind is that I don't feel like the rivalry between Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns is intense enough, right? Roman Reigns tried to kill Braun Strowman by stuffing him into that ambulance and crushing it up against that trailer. Braun Strowman all bloody, refusing medical attention, barely walking out of the arena. I feel like he hasn't come back to get his revenge. I feel like he should be much more angry, much more furious. He should be more focused on getting back at Roman than the Universal Championship, in my opinion. Now, for the sake of this feud, he cares about the Universal Championship, and where we go afterwards, we'll have to see. but I just feel like there should be more intensity there from Braun Strowman. Now we move into the third hour of Raw, and usually it's hard to pick out an hour that's worse than the others. Usually they're all on the same level, but I cannot remember in recent memory the last time a Raw had an hour that was so obviously worse than the other two. This one was it. This hour of Raw was atrocious. The show could have easily just ended at 10 and nothing would have changed. So I'm just going to sort of quickly go through these last three matches that happened and then close it out here because, like I said, these were all just stuff that could have been nixed from the show entirely. We had Elias versus Callisto. Not sure what the point of this match was. Elias won. I'm guessing it's just to keep putting him over and keep him in your face while we await his next feud, whoever that's going to be with. Then we had Bayley versus Nia Jax. This is our monthly showcasing of Bayley versus Nia Jax. I feel like we see this match at least once a month, if not twice a month. This particular instance of this match was just bad. There were a handful of botches. Nothing in it made sense, in my opinion. Is Bayley's wrist really injured? Why did Alexa Bliss run out to save Nia Jax so late into the match? Why wasn't she down there at ringside at the time? What was she hoping to accomplish? Why would Nia Jax waste time to check on Alexa Bliss after Bayley attacked her? Aren't they supposed to be like half enemies, or did we just completely forget about that? Did the writers nix that? Just a whole bunch of whys with this match. And then we had our actual main event, Big Show versus Big Cass. I really wish they would just save this match for the pay-per-view. I don't know why they're giving us this match on Raw, because if they ever were to give us this match on the pay-per-view, they've completely shown to me that it will be a boring match beyond belief, because no matter how good the Big Show can make Big Cass look, Big Cass isn't believable when all of his moves are variations of an elbow drop. And sure, hold on, let me give him credit for his big boot as well. He has variations of an elbow drop, and he has a big boot. Why am I supposed to believe that this is some contender or a big monster heel or someone who can go up against the Big Show? So again, to reiterate, just a boring third hour. You almost couldn't wait for it to be over. I was half hoping that Big Cass was going to attack the Big Show during his entrance from behind, and that would just sort of be the ending to Raw, and that we actually wouldn't have gotten this match. But we did. We got this past third hour of Raw. Now, overall, this was somewhat a solid episode of Raw. Up until the third hour, again, the most boring hour in Raw in recent memory. And then to top it all off, I don't think they announced any matches for next week's Raw. So coming off this boring hour of Raw, I have nothing to look forward to for the next week's Raw. Why am I tuning in? What am I going to see? What cliffhanger was I left on that I care about? The Big Show ended up knocking out Big Cass, so in my mind, I'm happy that's all said and done. There was nothing talked about in the Fatal 4-Way for SummerSlam, the Universal Championship. There's nothing happening there, no tag match or anything next week. There was nothing announced, so there's no hype going into the next Raw, and in my opinion, that's a big part where they dropped the ball. Last week, we were praising them because they seemed like they knew what direction they were going in by talking about matches for this week's episodes of Raw and SmackDown, but they didn't announce anything for next week's Raw. Now, hopefully SmackDown doesn't follow suit, but we'll have to wait and see. But let me know what you guys thought of this episode of Raw in the comments down below. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What segment did you think was the best? Which segment did you think was the worst? Let me know down below. But unfortunately, that is going to bring us to the end of today's video. So if you enjoyed it and you'd like to see more, click on that subscribe button. But other than that, guys, enjoy the rest of your day and take care.